Let me ask you something. When life pushes you to your breaking point, what breaks first? Is it your plan or your peace? Because peace, my friend, is not built when everything goes right. It's built when everything goes wrong and you still stand tall. Calm isn't a luxury. It's a weapon. And the one who masters calm masters chaos. You don't have to answer every insult, every rumor, every challenge. Sometimes the greatest move is no move. Sometimes silence speaks louder than fire. The person who can pause in pain grows in wisdom. The person who reacts without reflection repeats the same lesson over and over again. You can't expect peace while entertaining chaos. If people drain you, distance yourself. If situations trigger you, train your response. You don't owe anyone access to your peace. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Learn to say no, without explanation, without guilt. Protect your peace like your future depends on it, because it does. When emotion floods your mind, breathe deep, slow, intentional. Because your breath is your anchor when everything feels like it's falling apart. You can't control the storm, but you can control the wind inside you. Every breath reminds you, you are still here, still standing, still in control. Reactions are impulsive. Responses are intelligent. When you respond, you decide. When you react, you surrender. The difference between wisdom and regret is often just a pause. So, before you send that message, before you raise that voice, before you burn that bridge, pause. Let calm take the wheel. You cannot be calm if you keep holding on to everything that hurt you. Some things were never meant to be fixed, only released. Forgiveness doesn't make them right, it makes you free. Peace begins where pride ends. And sometimes letting go isn't weakness, it's strength disguised as surrender. You can't control people. You can't control the weather. You can't control the outcome. But you can always control your effort, your attitude, your energy. Focus there. Because frustration grows in the gap between what you want to control and what you actually can. The smaller that gap, the greater your calm. Discipline is the backbone of calm. The more structure you have, the less chaos can invade your mind. Wake up early, pray, meditate, move. Feed your spirit before you face the world, because when your habits are strong, pressure becomes powerless. Do the work, give your best, and then let it go. Anxiety thrives on attachment. Calm blooms in trust. Trust that what's meant for you won't miss you. Trust that delay doesn't mean denial. When you stop chasing outcomes, you start attracting alignment. When life gets loud, don't just ask, why me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Because every storm carries a message, every delay hides direction, and every loss reveals your limits. The calm person doesn't see problems, they see preparation. Shift your lens and peace will follow. Peace needs maintenance. You can't skip self-care and expect strength. Read something that uplifts you. Speak life into your day. Surround yourself with voices that remind you of who you are, not who you were. A calm spirit isn't a one-time gift. It's a daily practice. And when all else fails, remember this, the loudest battles are often fought in silence. When you walk through fire and don't flinch, when you face insult and still smile, when the world screams and you whisper peace, that's power, that's growth, that's calm in its highest form. Because calm isn't the absence of noise, it's the ability to stand still while the noise loses its power. And once you find that peace, once you live in that quiet confidence, no storm can shake you, no chaos can own you, and no fear can define you. That's the lesson. 10 times over, calm isn't what you find, it's who you become. Peace is not found in silence, it's forged in storms. True peace doesn't come when the world grows quiet or when circumstances align perfectly in your favor. It is not the absence of chaos, but the presence of strength within it. Many people chase a quiet life thinking that peace means having no noise, no arguments, no challenges. But peace isn't the soft whisper of a calm sea. It's the stillness of a warrior standing firm in the middle of the storm. It is built in the furnace of adversity, shaped by trials that test your patience, your faith, and your will to keep standing when the winds of life try to knock you down. Peace doesn't ask for comfort, it demands courage. It asks, can you be still when everything inside you wants to run? The storms of life come in many forms: loss, disappointment, betrayal, failure, uncertainty. They shake your foundation, they rattle your beliefs, they strip away your illusions. And it is in those moments that you begin to understand the difference between quiet and peace. Quiet is external, peace is internal. Quiet depends on the environment, peace depends on your mindset. You can be in the loudest room and still feel at rest, or you can be in perfect silence and feel like your mind is screaming. The calmest people are not the ones who have avoided storms, but the ones who have learned how to breathe through them. They have learned that life will never stop testing you, but peace is what keeps you from breaking under pressure. When the storm hits, peace whispers, "Be still." It's not denial of pain, it's the decision not to be consumed by it. It's choosing clarity over chaos, faith over fear, and patience over panic. Peace is a decision long before it becomes a feeling. It's forged every time you choose restraint when anger rises, every time you breathe before you speak, every time you choose not to respond to the noise designed to provoke you. In the storm, you discover what's real. You learn what's worth fighting for and what's worth letting go. You stop wasting your energy on proving and start preserving your energy for growing. Peace teaches you to stand tall when the ground shakes, to stay grounded when the world spins, to find meaning in the mess and stillness in the struggle. You don't learn peace from ease, you learn it from endurance. When everything falls apart, you are introduced to the parts of yourself you never knew existed. You find out how strong your faith really is, how deep your patience can go, and how much light you carry even when darkness surrounds you. Peace is not a soft concept. It's forged like steel, hammered by hardship, refined by fire. It takes discipline to remain calm when things don't go your way. It takes wisdom to choose silence when every emotion inside you demands reaction. It takes maturity to let go instead of fight battles that steal your serenity. Peace isn't natural, it's practiced. Every storm becomes your classroom, every setback your teacher. You start learning that control is an illusion and acceptance is freedom. You stop demanding life to be easy and start strengthening yourself to face it as it is. Storms don't destroy you, they define you. Every great soul has walked through storms that threatened to break them, but instead, they built their foundation there. They didn't wait for calm seas to find balance. They created peace within the turbulence. That's how you know peace isn't fragile. It doesn't disappear when trouble arrives, it deepens. Like roots digging deeper when the wind blows harder, peace anchors you when life tests your stability. You stop searching for escape and start seeking alignment. You realize that the purpose of storms isn't to punish you, but to prepare you, to make sure your peace is real, not borrowed, not situational, not dependent on others behaving the way you want. Real peace can't be taken because it's not built on conditions, it's built on conviction. When you reach that point, storms stop intimidating you. They start instructing you. You begin to see pain not as punishment but as purification. Every struggle becomes an invitation to grow, every challenge a chance to master yourself. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" You stop wishing for life to get easier and start praying for wisdom to get stronger. That's when you realize peace is power. It's not passive, it's protective. It guards your mind when fear tries to enter, your heart when bitterness tries to grow, and your spirit when exhaustion tries to pull you down. Peace gives you clarity when confusion surrounds you. It gives you patience when progress feels slow. It gives you humility when success arrives. When storms rise, your first instinct is to panic. You want to fix everything, control everything, escape everything. But peace reminds you that not every problem needs immediate action. Some problems dissolve in time, not effort. Some storms pass not because you fought them, but because you stopped feeding them. Peace is the art of surrender without defeat. It's saying, I don't have to win every argument to stay in alignment. I don't have to prove I'm right to protect my peace. It's learning to walk away without resentment, to stay silent without bitterness, to keep your dignity when others lose theirs. That's the kind of peace forged in storms. The kind that cannot be broken by noise because it was built in thunder. Peace teaches you emotional intelligence, the wisdom to know when to speak, when to stay silent, when to fight, and when to let go. It reminds you that your reaction can either fuel the storm or calm it. Every moment you choose to respond with peace, you reclaim your power, because chaos feeds on attention, but peace thrives in awareness. When you stop reacting, you start responding from strength, and that shift changes everything. You stop being a slave to circumstances and start being the master of your state. The storm might rage outside, but inside you remain unmoved. That's not ignorance, it's mastery. It's knowing that peace doesn't require perfect conditions, it only requires a practiced mind. When you begin to live from peace, your presence changes. You walk slower, you speak softer, you listen deeper, you no longer chase every distraction or defend every criticism. You start valuing your mental space as sacred ground. You realize that not everything deserves your response, not everyone deserves your energy. Peace gives you discernment to see what truly matters. It strips away ego, competition, and comparison. It lets you operate from purpose, not pressure. And when you lead from peace, people feel it. Your calm becomes contagious. Your stillness inspires others to slow down. You become the anchor in a room full of waves. You learn that peace isn't something to find, it's something to build daily. It's built in small moments, choosing to forgive when you could hold a grudge, choosing patience when you could explode, choosing gratitude when you could complain. It's built when you stop arguing with life and start flowing with it. It's built when you learn to sit with your emotions without letting them dictate your actions. Storms come to test that peace, to see if it's real or just a performance. Because anyone can be calm when things go right, but true peace is proven when everything goes wrong and you still choose to smile, still choose to love, still choose to stand tall. In life there will always be storms, financial storms, emotional storms, spiritual storms. They will come without warning, shake your plans, and test your patience. But peace isn't about waiting for the weather to clear. It's about learning to dance in the rain. It's knowing that even in the middle of chaos, something greater than fear is holding you steady. It's realizing that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, to teach, to strengthen, to prepare you for the next chapter. The storms are not against you, they're the fire that forges your calm. Every wave that crashes against you shapes you into something stronger, something deeper, something unshakable. Peace is not found in silence, it's forged in storms. Because silence can be temporary, but peace is eternal. Silence can be broken by noise, but peace remains even when the noise never stops. It's the eye of the hurricane, the calm center that never moves, no matter how wild the winds get. You are that center when you learn to trust the process, when you stop fighting the waves and start learning how to surf them. Peace is the art of standing tall in the middle of the unknown, with a steady heart and a grounded soul. It's forged in every sleepless night you choose faith over fear, every setback you face with grace, every moment you decide not to give up when you easily could have. The storms don't steal your peace, they reveal it. They strip away the noise, the pride, the pretense, until all that's left is what's real. They remind you that calm isn't a destination, it's a decision. You don't wait for peace, you create it. You don't search for it in people or possessions, you grow it within yourself. It's a slow burn, a quiet strength, a sacred stillness that says, no matter what comes, I am unshaken. Because peace is not found in silence, it's forged in storms, and those who survive the storm with grace emerge not just calmer, but wiser, deeper, and unstoppable. You can't control the world, but you can control your response to it. That truth is both humbling and liberating. The moment you realize that the world will never bend to your will, you stop wasting your strength trying to manipulate what was never yours to manage. The weather changes, people change, circumstances collapse, plans unravel, and yet, within all that chaos, you remain the one variable you can always govern. You may not decide what happens, but you decide how to interpret it. You may not choose every situation, but you choose your attitude in every situation. That is where your real power lies, not in the world outside, but in the world within. Life constantly reminds you that control is an illusion. You can plan your day down to the minute, but one unexpected call, one harsh word, one piece of bad news can rewrite everything. You can't stop the rain from falling or the waves from rising, but you can learn how to sail. The world is unpredictable, unstable, sometimes unfair, but your response determines whether those conditions defeat you or develop you. The difference between peace and panic, growth and despair, resilience and collapse is not the size of your storm, it's the strength of your response. When you understand that, you stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the master of your mindset. People will disappoint you. Opportunities will slip away. Life will hand you losses you never saw coming. You can't control those events, but you can control the meaning you give them. You can choose to see them as punishment or preparation, as obstacles or openings. The world might push you down, but your response decides if you stay down. You can meet betrayal with bitterness or with boundaries, failure with frustration or with focus. Every event in life comes with two options: react emotionally or respond intentionally. The first keeps you stuck in the problem, the second moves you toward the solution. The mind is a battlefield where peace and panic fight for dominance. The more you feed panic, the louder it becomes. The more you train peace, the stronger it grows. Your response begins in your thoughts. Every reaction is born from interpretation, not fact. You can't control the words others say, but you can control whether you absorb them or let them pass through. You can't control the pace of the world, but you can slow down your breath, your heartbeat, your inner dialogue. When you stop giving your energy to what you can't control, you start taking power back from what drains it. Your emotions no longer drive the car, you do. There will be moments when you're tempted to explode, to argue, to defend, to fight. The ego always wants to prove something. But peace doesn't live in proving, it lives in perspective. Every time you hold your tongue when anger burns, every time you choose grace when pride demands revenge, you strengthen your ability to control your response. That is the quiet discipline that separates those who live in reaction from those who live in reflection. Life will always test your patience, your humility, your focus. It will send people to provoke you, circumstances to pressure you, losses to shake you. But those moments are not punishments. They are opportunities to practice mastery. You can't control traffic, but you can control how you use that time. You can curse the delay, or you can breathe, think, reflect, listen, grow. You can't control gossip, but you can control your peace by refusing to feed the noise. You can't control the market, the weather, or the moods of those around you, but you can control your effort, your consistency, your character. The world outside you will always be unstable, but the world within you can become unshakable if you learn to respond instead of react. The secret is in awareness. When you become aware of your thoughts before they become words, your words before they become actions, your actions before they become habits, you reclaim control. The truth is, control over the external world is temporary and fragile. The moment you depend on others' approval, you surrender your stability. The moment your peace depends on everything going right, you set yourself up for chaos. But when your peace depends on your perspective, when your calm comes from within, then nothing external can steal it. You can walk through rejection and still feel whole. You can face failure and still see progress. You can lose everything and still not lose yourself. Because real control doesn't come from holding everything tightly, it comes from letting go of what was never yours and mastering what always was, your response. In every moment, life gives you two choices: control or surrender. Control tries to force the world into your plan. Surrender trusts that even when things fall apart, there's meaning hidden inside the mess. You can't stop pain from arriving, but you can decide whether it becomes your prison or your teacher. You can't stop change, but you can decide whether to resist it or evolve with it. The world will keep spinning no matter how much you worry. Worry changes nothing but your peace. Acceptance, on the other hand, changes everything about your energy. It gives you clarity. It allows you to focus on what's real instead of what's out of reach. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you free yourself from endless frustration. You start using your energy where it matters, on your mindset, your actions, your growth. You realize that the only real control you have is self-control. That is the foundation of maturity. When you master self-control, the world loses its power to disturb you. You may not be able to stop people from judging you, but you can control how much that judgment affects your peace. You may not stop pain from entering your life, but you can decide whether it defines you or refines you. You may not stop storms from coming, but you can decide whether to stand still or to drown in panic. Every reaction builds a pattern. The more you respond consciously, the more natural it becomes. Calm becomes your default, not chaos. You begin to see through the noise. You begin to understand that peace doesn't mean life is easy. It means you have learned the art of emotional balance. When the world gets loud, you don't shout back, you listen deeper. When life gets hard, you don't collapse, you focus. When others lose control, you remain centered. That calm doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of discipline, awareness, and spiritual alignment. You can't control the outcome, but you can always control your effort. You can't control the season, but you can control the seeds you plant. You can't control time, but you can control how you spend it. There's freedom in accepting that some things will never be yours to manage. Once you stop resisting that truth, you stop suffering twice, once from the event, and again from the illusion that you could have changed it. Peace comes not from power, but from perspective. The person who accepts what is and responds with grace is always stronger than the one who fights everything they cannot change. You will meet people who test your patience, situations that test your faith, and moments that test your strength. You cannot control their behavior, but you can control your boundaries. You can control the distance you keep, the tone you use, the energy you give. You can choose peace without needing permission. The most powerful person in any room is not the loudest. It's the one who remains calm when everyone else loses composure. That's the mark of inner mastery. The storm outside doesn't move the mountain within. Sometimes the world will be unfair. People will get away with things they shouldn't. Plans will fail despite your best efforts. Injustice will sting. But you cannot let external unfairness destroy internal balance. Respond with integrity even when others act without it. Respond with kindness even when faced with cruelty. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. When you allow your response to reflect your character, not their chaos, you rise above the storm. You remind yourself that peace is not about control. It's about choice. You choose how to see, how to feel, how to act. That is where freedom lies. In relationships, at work, in family, in loss, the same rule applies. You cannot control what people think of you. You cannot control whether they stay or go. You cannot control how they treat you. But you can control your standard, your reaction, your growth. You can respond with dignity instead of despair. You can rise with grace instead of sinking in anger. That choice determines not just your peace, but your direction. You either spend your life reacting to everything, or you spend your life creating something. One drains you, the other defines you. There is a deep strength in restraint. The ability to pause before reacting is one of the rarest forms of power. When you pause, you create space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies freedom. Freedom to choose clarity over confusion, composure over chaos, wisdom over impulse. That is the space where peace lives. Most people never find it because they rush from emotion to action without reflection. But the moment you learn to pause, breathe, and choose your response, you become untouchable. The world can throw its worst at you, and you still stand tall. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. You can't control the world, but you can control your response to it. You can't decide how the story begins, but you can decide how you show up for every chapter. You can choose gratitude over resentment, patience over panic, humility over pride. You can decide to keep your heart soft even after it's been hurt, your faith steady even when it's tested, your spirit hopeful even when it's tired. That choice doesn't change the world, but it changes you. And when you change, your world changes with you. Control is not about dominance, it's about discipline. It's the quiet, consistent commitment to respond with wisdom no matter how wild the world becomes. It's the realization that storms don't decide your destiny. Your response does. Life will keep moving, people will keep changing, and situations will keep shifting, but you remain the constant variable with the ability to choose your response every single time. And that choice, repeated over and over, becomes your peace, your power, your strength. Stillness isn't weakness, it's power under discipline. In a world that worships speed, noise, and constant movement, stillness is often misunderstood. People think that if you're not moving, you're falling behind. If you're not talking, you have nothing to say. If you're not reacting, you don't care. But stillness isn't the absence of motion, it's the mastery of it. It's the ability to remain centered when the world pulls you in 100 different directions. It's power controlled, focus contained, emotion refined. Stillness is what separates those who are led by impulse from those who are guided by intention. It's not about doing nothing, it's about doing only what matters and doing it with precision, purpose, and peace. True stillness requires strength because it demands self-control in a world addicted to distraction. It's easy to react, easy to argue, easy to rush into decisions when your emotions take the wheel. But it takes deep power to pause, to observe, to wait until wisdom catches up with emotion. Stillness is not passive, it's active awareness. It's being present enough to sense the moment, but patient enough not to be consumed by it. When you master stillness, you stop being dragged by chaos. You start moving from clarity. You stop chasing validation and start building conviction. You stop fighting every battle and start choosing only the ones worth your peace. Stillness is the quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove, perform, or please. It's the knowing that not every attack deserves a reaction, not every insult needs an answer, not every noise requires your voice. Weakness reacts, power restrains. The strongest person in the room is not the one who speaks the loudest, but the one who can hold their silence until the right moment. That silence is not fear, it's calculation. It's strategy. It's understanding that timing matters as much as truth. People mistake stillness for surrender, but it's actually patience dressed as wisdom. When you're still, you're not losing time, you're gaining clarity. You're allowing your emotions to settle so that your vision can surface. Discipline is what gives stillness its strength. Without discipline, stillness becomes stagnation. But with discipline, stillness becomes power in motion. Discipline trains your mind to resist the pull of impulsive reactions. It teaches you that every action carries energy and consequence, and the more intentional you are, the more effective you become. In stillness, your mind sharpens. You begin to see patterns, motives, and opportunities that noise would have hidden from you. You stop being driven by external events and start leading from internal awareness. That's why those who practice stillness are not easily shaken. Their emotions don't dictate their choices because discipline holds the reins. There is a reason why the greatest warriors, thinkers, and leaders throughout history have valued stillness. It's in moments of quiet reflection that vision is born. It's in moments of pause that clarity arrives. The most powerful moves are often made after a long silence. When you're still, you're not frozen, you're focused. You're conserving energy for the right strike. You're letting the storm pass before you act. It's not weakness to wait, it's wisdom to choose your timing. The impatient waste their strength on small battles. The disciplined wait for the right moment and win the war. Stillness allows you to listen, not just to others, but to yourself. Beneath the noise of the world, your intuition whispers directions, but you can't hear it while you're running from silence. The disciplined mind knows how to quiet the noise long enough to reconnect with its purpose. In stillness, you remember why you started. You separate what's urgent from what's important. You stop mistaking movement for progress. You begin to realize that peace isn't found in doing more, it's found in doing less, but with more meaning. The power of stillness is that it turns chaos into clarity, confusion into calm, reaction into response. Weakness seeks escape from silence because silence reveals truth. When you sit still long enough, your mind confronts what you've been avoiding: the fear, the doubt, the guilt, the unresolved emotions. But power faces those truths with discipline. It doesn't run, it refines. Stillness becomes the forge where self-awareness is born. You begin to recognize what drains you, what drives you, what defines you. You start to control not just your actions but your energy. When you know where your energy goes, you learn how to protect it. And that protection becomes your peace. In stillness, you learn patience, not as passivity, but as preparation. Patience is not waiting aimlessly, it's trusting the process while staying ready. Stillness teaches you to let time work for you, not against you. It reminds you that growth doesn't always look like movement. A seed doesn't grow by rushing. It grows by being buried, by waiting, by staying still until it's strong enough to break through. You, too, grow in your quiet seasons. When nothing seems to be happening, everything within you is aligning. Stillness gives life to strength that noise cannot nurture. There is an illusion in modern life that constant activity equals success. We are told to hustle endlessly, to never stop, to always be doing something. But motion without direction is chaos disguised as progress. The disciplined know that not every step is a move forward. Sometimes stillness saves you from wasting years chasing what doesn't align with your purpose. Sometimes doing nothing is the most productive thing you can do, because it gives space for wisdom to arrive. It's in those quiet pauses that new insight emerges, new direction unfolds, new strength awakens. Stillness is not stepping back, it's stepping above, it's rising to a higher perspective. When you practice stillness, you stop allowing your emotions to command your actions. Anger, fear, and anxiety lose their power because you learn to observe them without becoming them. Stillness gives you space between feeling and doing, and that space is where maturity lies. You start responding to life instead of reacting to it. You realize that discipline is not about control, it's about awareness. You become aware of what deserves your response and what deserves your silence. Every time you choose not to react to chaos, you build more power within. That power is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It simply radiates. People feel it without you needing to prove it. The more disciplined your stillness becomes, the less the external world can disturb you. You stop being emotionally hijacked by every inconvenience. You stop trying to fix everything outside of you, because you've learned to regulate everything inside of you. Stillness becomes your sanctuary, a space where your mind resets, your spirit regains strength, your focus realigns. The world might rush around you, but you remain steady, like a mountain unmoved by wind. That is not weakness, that is control. To be able to stand still while everything shakes is one of the highest forms of mastery. Stillness sharpens your perception. You begin to see how people act out of their own fears, how situations unfold according to natural order, how everything that once felt personal is just part of life's rhythm. You stop taking offense so easily because you understand that most chaos isn't about you. It's about people's inability to be still within themselves. You no longer mirror that energy. You choose peace instead of proving, restraint instead of reaction, and that choice multiplies your strength quietly over time. The disciplined mind doesn't seek validation, it seeks alignment. It knows that real power doesn't need to be seen. It just needs to be felt. In stillness, you learn the art of timing. You realize that everything doesn't need an immediate answer. Not every problem is yours to solve right now. Sometimes, life needs space to rearrange itself before revealing the next step. The disciplined soul knows when to wait and when to move. It doesn't rush into decisions out of fear or desperation. It waits for clarity. It trusts that no storm lasts forever and no confusion lasts without purpose. When you learn to wait without wasting, to pause without panicking, you gain access to peace that few ever find. The world equates noise with strength because it doesn't understand control. But the greatest power is quiet. The lion doesn't roar before every hunt. The ocean doesn't announce its depth, it simply is. True strength doesn't broadcast itself, it holds itself. Stillness is that quiet authority. It's knowing you don't have to prove your power to possess it. It's the calm before the storm, but also the calm after it. It's the pause that resets your mind before your next move. And the more you cultivate it, the more unstoppable you become, because you are no longer moved by everything that moves. Stillness requires trust. It's trusting that you don't have to force every outcome, that sometimes the best way to advance is to wait. It's believing that not every delay is a denial, that not every silence is a rejection. It's having faith that life unfolds with precision even when you can't see the pattern yet. Trust gives your stillness purpose. Discipline gives it consistency. Together, they create resilience, the kind of strength that cannot be shaken by circumstance. When you learn to be still, you start to see how much of life you've been rushing through. You start to notice the details, the small blessings, the lessons hidden in ordinary moments. You start living from awareness, not anxiety. You stop chasing happiness and start cultivating peace. That peace becomes your anchor in chaos, your compass in confusion, your shield in conflict. You carry it everywhere you go, not because life stopped testing you, but because you learned how to pass every test with grace. Stillness isn't weakness. It's power under discipline. It's the rare kind of strength that doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to rush, doesn't need to control. It simply stands firm, knowing that everything loud eventually burns out, but everything steady endures. It's the quiet within that keeps you from breaking when everything around you tries to. It's not that you don't feel the storm, it's that you've learned to be the calm inside it. Stillness is not doing nothing, it's doing the inner work that gives every outer action meaning. It's holding power, not spending it. It's control in its highest form, born not from pride but from presence, not from dominance but from discipline. When emotion rises, wisdom whispers, listen to that whisper. The human heart is a storm, wild and unpredictable. When you're caught in the waves of emotion, logic drowns and impulse takes control. Anger burns, fear shakes, pride blinds, and pain deafens. But somewhere beneath that noise, wisdom speaks softly. It never shouts, never demands attention, because true wisdom doesn't compete with chaos, it waits for silence. It waits for you to pause long enough to hear it. It's that quiet voice that says, wet, when everything in you screams, raked. It's that gentle pull that reminds you of who you are before emotion convinces you to become someone you're not. Emotions are powerful teachers, but terrible masters. They can reveal what needs healing, but if left unchecked, they can destroy what you've built. When emotion rises, it tells you a story, but not always the truth. It tells you that you've been disrespected, that you must defend, that you need to speak now or lose your chance. But wisdom whispers a different story. It reminds you that not every reaction deserves release, not every feeling needs expression, and not every fight requires your presence. Wisdom asks you to slow down, to breathe, to observe. Because the first response of emotion is often the one you'll regret most. When you act in emotion, you hand control to the moment. But when you listen to wisdom, you reclaim control from the moment. Emotion wants to move fast, wisdom wants to move right. Emotion reacts, wisdom responds. Emotion burns bridges, wisdom builds boundaries. When you learn to listen to that whisper, you stop letting temporary feelings make permanent decisions. You stop confusing intensity for importance. You stop mistaking reaction for power. Because real strength is not in the volume of your response, but in the restraint of your silence. Emotion rises fast and loud. It demands to be felt, and it should be. But feeling and acting are two different things. To feel deeply is human, to respond wisely is divine. When you feel anger, it's not your enemy, it's your alarm. It's pointing to a wound, a boundary crossed, a truth ignored. But if you act from that anger before you understand it, you amplify your pain. The whisper of wisdom tells you to pause, to sit with your emotion, to ask, what is this really about? Sometimes it's not the situation that hurts, it's the old memory it touched, the old insecurity it awakened. Wisdom knows this, and that's why it whispers, because only in quiet can truth surface. When you're emotional, your world shrinks to the size of that moment. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels personal. But wisdom sees beyond the moment. It reminds you that what's heavy now might be light tomorrow. It reminds you that your words can't be unsaid, your actions can't be undone, your reactions can't always be forgiven. That whisper tells you to protect your peace even when your pride is wounded. It tells you to stay silent when you're tempted to shout, to wait until the storm inside you settles before you make a move. Emotion will push you to speak, but wisdom will pull you to think. There is a power in waiting. When you delay reaction, you give wisdom time to rise. The longer you wait, the clearer the whisper becomes. You begin to see the bigger picture, the hidden motives, the lessons in disguise. You begin to understand that not everything needs fixing, and not everyone needs convincing. Emotion seeks justice in the moment, but wisdom seeks peace in the long run. You learn to trade temporary satisfaction for lasting stability. You learn that silence can protect what anger would destroy. The whisper doesn't stop the storm, it guides you through it. Every person has moments when emotion threatens to take over. You feel wronged, misunderstood, overlooked. Your instinct is to defend, to prove, to fight. But every time you've reacted in emotion, you've probably seen the aftermath. Regret, confusion, more conflict than before. That's because emotion wants to win, but wisdom wants to heal. Wisdom doesn't care about victory, it cares about peace. It knows that sometimes walking away is braver than arguing. It knows that keeping your composure is more powerful than matching energy. The whisper tells you that self-control is strength, and that sometimes the quietest person in the room has already won the argument. Wisdom whispers in moments of chaos. It's that tiny hesitation that says, breathe before you respond. It's the voice that reminds you that someone else's anger doesn't have to become your own. It's the reminder that your peace costs too much to spend it on every reaction. Emotion rises like a tide, but tides always fall. If you can wait long enough, if you can stand still long enough, the intensity fades and clarity returns. Most people make their biggest mistakes in the minutes before the tide falls. Wisdom whispers, wait, and those who listen save themselves from unnecessary pain. When emotion rises, your body tightens, your thoughts race, your breath shortens. These are signs, not commands. They are invitations to awareness. Wisdom whispers in those signals, telling you to pause, to breathe deeply, to center yourself. When you calm your body, you calm your mind. And when your mind is calm, truth becomes visible. Emotion distorts perception. It paints everyone as an enemy, every inconvenience as an attack, every silence as rejection. But wisdom sees nuance. It reminds you that not everyone who disagrees is against you, not every delay is a denial, not every challenge is a curse. Listening to that whisper takes practice. The mind loves drama, the ego loves noise. Stillness feels foreign when you're used to reacting. But with time, you begin to crave that calm. You begin to see how many battles you can avoid simply by not reacting instantly. You start to realize how many misunderstandings dissolve when you choose silence over defense. You start to understand that most of the world's chaos comes from people who act before they think. Wisdom isn't about being smarter than others. It's about being calmer than your old self. It's about pausing long enough to ask, what outcome do I want? Before you act. There will be moments when wisdom's whisper feels like weakness. When you're quiet while others shout, when you choose patience while others choose pride, when you let go instead of proving your point. But that restraint is not weakness, it's control. It's the realization that your peace is worth more than your ego's satisfaction. Wisdom whispers because it doesn't need attention to prove its worth. It's secure in silence. It knows that storms pass, that truth reveals itself, that time exposes intentions. Emotion lives in the moment, wisdom lives in the timeline. When emotion rises, wisdom often hides in the smallest gestures. The breath you take before answering, the step you take back instead of forward, the decision to sleep on it instead of acting now. Those small pauses are where power lies. Because in that space between impulse and action, you decide the quality of your life. Every moment of restraint builds strength. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you fortify your inner peace. You teach your nervous system that not every alarm means danger, not every disagreement means disrespect, not every emotion needs expression. The whisper of wisdom also speaks in reflection. After the moment passes, it shows you what emotion blinded you to. It reveals patterns in your reactions, lessons in your mistakes. It helps you see how often you've wasted energy trying to control what was never yours. It teaches you that peace doesn't come from controlling emotion. It comes from understanding it. You start to observe emotion instead of becoming it. You can feel anger without acting in anger, feel fear without running from it, feel pain without letting it define you. Emotion becomes a messenger, not a master. Wisdom's whisper is easy to miss because it doesn't compete with your emotions. It coexists with them. It's the subtle awareness behind the storm. Even when you're furious, something inside you knows, don't say that. Even when you're heartbroken, something inside you whispers, this pain will pass. Even when you're afraid, something quietly reminds you, you've survived worse. That's wisdom's voice. It doesn't erase emotion. It balances it. It doesn't silence feeling. It refines it. And the more you listen, the louder it becomes. Emotion will always rise because that's what makes you human. But wisdom will always whisper because that's what makes you whole. Your growth is measured not by how little you feel, but by how wisely you respond to what you feel. It's not about avoiding emotion, it's about understanding that emotion is temporary, while consequences are lasting. The whisper reminds you that storms end, wounds heal, anger fades, and what remains is the person you became through those choices. Listening to that whisper requires humility. You have to admit that you don't always know what's best in the heat of the moment. You have to surrender your need to win every argument, to prove every point, to defend every slight. Wisdom whispers to remind you that peace is greater than being right, that calm is stronger than control, that patience is a form of power. When you listen, you start to see how wisdom protects what emotion often destroys: relationships, opportunities, self-respect. The whisper of wisdom is like the wind. It's invisible, but it moves everything. It moves you away from regret, away from bitterness, away from reaction. It moves you closer to peace, closer to clarity, closer to mastery. Every time you ignore it, you strengthen chaos. Every time you hear it and follow, you strengthen character. Over time, you begin to trust it. You begin to rely on it more than the rush of emotion. You begin to live slower, think deeper, act clearer. You stop chasing quick satisfaction and start building long-term serenity. When emotion rises, the world will tell you to speak your truth, to act fast, to make sure you're seen and heard. But wisdom whispers differently. It tells you that truth doesn't need to be shouted, that action without reflection leads to destruction, that being seen is less important than being centered. It tells you that calm minds make strong moves and that patience wins battles pride never could. The whisper reminds you that control over others is illusion, but control over yourself is freedom. It's the quiet guide that helps you walk through chaos without becoming chaotic, through pain without becoming bitter, through life without losing yourself. The calmest person in the room is always the most dangerous, not because they are cold, but because they are composed, not because they are detached, but because they are disciplined. Calmness is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. It is the silent confidence that comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you are capable of, without the need to prove it to anyone. The calm person carries an energy that commands respect without demanding attention. They don't raise their voice, they raise their presence. And that presence alone unsettles those who rely on noise to feel powerful. The calm person does not need to announce their strength, their stillness says enough. They've been through too many storms to fear the wind. They've faced chaos before and learned that panic only feeds the problem. They understand that emotion is energy, and whoever controls their energy controls the room. While others react, they observe. While others rush to speak, they wait to understand. Their calmness is not submission, it's strategy. It's a choice to respond with clarity instead of confusion, with purpose instead of panic. Because the person who can stay composed in conflict has already won half the battle before it begins. Calmness is not a personality trait, it's a discipline built through fire. You don't become calm by accident, you become calm by survival. You become calm because you've learned that reacting too fast costs too much. You've seen how anger burns bridges, how fear blinds judgment, how pride ruins peace. So you learn to pause. You learn to watch before you move, to think before you speak, to breathe before you break. That's what makes calmness dangerous. It's intentional. It's a weapon sharpened by experience, by mistakes, by losses. The calm person isn't untouched by chaos, they're just no longer owned by it. In a world that rewards noise, calmness becomes rebellion. Everyone wants to be heard, but few want to listen. Everyone wants to win the argument, but few want to understand the truth. The calm person doesn't fight for attention. They let the world exhaust itself while they conserve energy, because they know that true power doesn't chase, it attracts. When they finally speak, people listen, not because of volume, but because of vibration. Their words carry weight because they were forged in thought. Their silence carries power because it's not emptiness, it's awareness. The calm person's presence alone can shift an atmosphere because it exposes insecurity in others. Noise fears silence, and chaos fears control. Calmness isn't passivity, it's precision. It's knowing that not every battle deserves your sword. It's recognizing that some situations are designed not for you to win, but for you to walk away. It's the understanding that sometimes peace is the loudest victory. The calm person doesn't need to dominate the moment. They own it by not being moved by it. When everyone else is losing focus, they stay centered. When everyone else is reacting emotionally, they move strategically. And that's what makes them dangerous. While others are burning energy on the surface, they are studying patterns beneath it. They are gathering information, waiting for the right moment, moving only when necessary. The calm person is dangerous because they've made peace with their pain. They don't overreact because they've already faced worse. They don't panic because they've already been through things that would break most people. They don't fear loss because they know how to rebuild. Their calmness isn't naivety, it's wisdom. They know that most problems are temporary, most people reveal themselves without help, and most storms pass on their own. So they don't waste time fighting waves, they focus on mastering the current. They understand that strength is not measured by how loudly you fight, but by how quietly you endure. When you're calm, you can see what others miss. Anger narrows vision, fear clouds judgment, panic distorts reality, but calmness brings clarity. You start noticing the details. The tone of voice, the small shifts in energy, the truth hidden behind words. The calm person reads rooms like books, they sense intention before it's spoken. That awareness makes them unpredictable. You can't manipulate someone who isn't reactive. You can't intimidate someone who isn't afraid. You can't control someone who controls themselves. That's why calmness is a form of power. It makes you untouchable to emotional chaos. The calm person doesn't just hold peace, they project it. In conflict, they lower tension simply by being present. People may raise their voices around them, but eventually those voices lose momentum, because calm is contagious. It disarms aggression, diffuses ego, and disrupts the cycle of escalation. The person who remains calm in tension becomes the anchor for everyone else. That doesn't mean they are emotionless, it means they are emotionally intelligent. They know that anger can't solve what understanding can. They know that patience can achieve what pressure can't. So they stay steady, and in doing so, they control the rhythm of the room. Being calm doesn't mean you don't care, it means you care correctly. You don't let emotion dictate your direction. You let wisdom lead your way. The calm person chooses long-term peace over short-term satisfaction. They've learned that reacting may feel good in the moment, but it rarely serves them later. So they choose restraint. They let their silence do the talking. They let time reveal truth. And time always does. Their stillness frustrates those who feed on chaos because it denies them control. But it also inspires those who seek growth because calmness represents mastery of emotion, of ego, of energy. Calmness is dangerous because it reveals maturity. It's a signal that you've graduated from the need for approval, that you no longer dance to the noise of the crowd. You move from reaction to intention. You stop needing validation to feel powerful. You understand that your value isn't proven by how loudly you respond, but by how little you need to. You become selective with your energy because you understand that peace is expensive. You stop attending every argument you're invited to. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop letting circumstances pull you out of character. The calm person doesn't lose themselves to the moment. They make the moment adjust to them. Calmness also exposes truth. When everyone around you is emotional, the calm person becomes the mirror. Their composure makes others face themselves. They highlight the insecurity behind aggression, the fear behind arrogance, the weakness behind noise. And because of that, calmness is often misunderstood. People may mistake it for indifference or arrogance, but in reality, it's restraint born of strength. It takes more energy to stay still in chaos than it does to join it. It takes courage to hold your peace when provoked, to trust silence when others weaponize words, to keep your power when others try to steal it through reaction. Calmness is also the mark of preparation. The calm person isn't easily shaken because they've already done the inner work. They've faced their own darkness. They've sat with their fears, healed their wounds, forgiven their past. They've made peace with who they are, so they don't need to prove it to anyone. They don't seek validation because they've already validated themselves. They move with quiet confidence because their foundation is built on self-awareness. That's why calmness feels powerful. It's rooted in truth, and truth doesn't need to shout, it simply exists. You can feel calmness before a calm person speaks. It's in the way they move, slow, deliberate, focused. It's in their eyes, steady, unwavering, observant. It's in their tone, measured, composed, unshaken. They bring order to chaos simply by refusing to mirror it. They remind others that emotion doesn't have to control every moment. That not reacting is also a form of reaction, one rooted in strength, not submission. Their calmness becomes their armor. It protects them from manipulation, from emotional traps, from the instability of others. Because when you're calm, you stop giving power to what doesn't deserve it. The calm person knows that control is an illusion if you can't control yourself. They focus on mastering their reactions, their tone, their energy. They don't allow circumstances to dictate their state of mind. They might feel anger, but they won't act in it. They might feel fear, but they won't feed it. They might feel disappointment, but they won't dwell there. Their emotions don't define their actions. Their discipline does, and that discipline turns them into a force that others can't easily read, predict, or defeat. That's what makes calm people dangerous. They move from intention, not impulse. Calmness is power because it's rare. It's rare to find someone who can hold their peace when everything around them is falling apart. It's rare to find someone who can listen without needing to respond. It's rare to find someone who can stay soft without being weak, quiet without being passive, patient without being complacent. The calm person has learned that the world will always test them, but reaction is optional. They've learned that sometimes the best move is no move, the best defense is self-control, the best answer is silence. They've learned that true dominance doesn't come from control over others. It comes from control over self. When you're calm, people reveal themselves. Your silence becomes a canvas for others to paint their character on. You see who thrives on chaos, who needs attention, who uses emotion as a weapon. You stop being pulled into every drama because you recognize that not all noise deserves a response. You start to conserve your peace as if it were currency, spending it only where it brings return. That's what calmness teaches, that energy is sacred, and the more you master your response, the less power the world has over you. The calmest person in the room is dangerous not because they are violent, but because they are unmoved. They can't be provoked into reaction. They can't be baited into losing focus. They see beyond the surface. They choose when and how to act. They don't waste emotion on noise. They direct it with precision. Their calmness is intelligence, wrapped in patience, guided by purpose. While others try to dominate the moment, they dominate themselves. And in mastering themselves, they quietly master everything around them.